Welcome back as we continue our look at the formation phase of the 10 Commandments for the confirmation program at Zion-Immanuel Lutheran Churches. In this video, we're working through the second table of the law, specifically focusing on the seventh commandment. The seventh commandment is, "You shall not steal." What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not take our neighbor's money or possessions or get them in any dishonest way, but help him to improve and protect his possessions and income. Now, what's forbidden in the seventh commandment is fairly obvious on one level, but it bears looking at more deeply. God forbids every kind of theft, every kind of fraud, and every kind of unjust gain. Now, theft is fairly straightforward. Anytime you are taking something that does not belong to you, you are stealing. That's theft. Fraud is tricking people out of what they have, sometimes by telling lies, sometimes by not telling the whole truth, sometimes by misrepresenting yourself. In any case, fraud is being dishonest in some way in order to get something that does not belong to you, or to get someone else to give you something that does not belong to you. And any unjust gain is basically a gain, an increase in your own property and possessions that you have no legitimate right to. So, for instance, not giving someone what you owe them. If you say you are going to pay somebody and you do not, if you say you are going to give something that you are borrowing back in a certain amount of time and you do not, you are unjustly gaining what you should not hold on to. Pay what you owe, otherwise you are breaking the seventh commandment. But this also goes into other ways that we don't often think about. Plagiarism, that is, stealing someone else's intellectual work and presenting it as your own, is plagiarism. So if I copy answers out of an encyclopedia or dictionary and present it as my own thoughts in a paper, I'm plagiarizing. I'm stealing the work and the ideas of someone else and presenting it as though it's my own. Vandalism, trespassing, that is, misusing or abusing the property that belongs to other people, is also a form of stealing. And therefore, vandalism, property destruction, or even, like I said, simple trespassing, all are violations of the seventh commandment. God did not entrust those things to you, and therefore you do not use them or treat them as though God has given them to you, because he hasn't. Instead, what we are to do is respect what God has given to other people and not try to take what God has given to them for ourselves illegitimately. This gets into what is required of us in the seventh commandment. Not only that we respect what people have been given by God, but also that we help them improve their possessions and income. And how we do that is by helping protect their property whenever we are able. And not only help protect it so that it doesn't suffer harm or loss, but also that whenever we have the opportunity, we actually try to help them increase the number of resources they have, or the state of the things that God has given to them. And this gets to the very big point at the heart of the seventh commandment, namely, that we do not own anything. The one who owns everything is the creator of heaven and earth. God is the source of literally everything that we have, and everything that is in our possession is actually God's. The word that we use in the Christian church for this is stewardship. The fact that we are stewards of God's possessions. Now, a steward is someone who manages the property of someone else on behalf of the person who actually owns it. You might think of it like a manager of a store. The manager isn't the owner of the store. They run the store for the person who owns the store. And because the manager knows they don't own the store, they don't treat the store like it's their own thing. They treat it in ways that they know the owner would appreciate. That's what a steward is. Since God gives everything that we have into our hands, and God is the one who gave our neighbor the things that our neighbor has, on the one hand, we respect the fact that God has given us what we have and that God has given our neighbor what they have. And we don't try to take into our own hands what God has not assigned to us. But on the other hand, it means that we recognize that we have responsibility for the things that God has entrusted us with. Since we are stewards, since we are managers, we use the things that God has given us, whether that's our food, our clothes, our money, our homes, whatever. We use them in ways that we know would be pleasing to God. Because again, this is God's stuff, not ours. God entrusts us with the responsibility of managing it well. Well, how do we use the various things God's given us in ways that please Him? Well, there's a good three-tier rule for this. First of all, yes, you are supposed to use the things God gives you to support your own life, your own health, your own well-being. Obviously, God gives food so that I can eat, so that I will continue to live relatively healthy and strong. After all, if I'm not strong and healthy, I'm of very little use to other people. But I'm not only supposed to use the things I have simply to support and enrich myself endlessly. In fact, one of the reasons I try to strengthen myself is so that I can use everything I have for the support and the well-being of the other people in my life. Specifically, I should also aim to use the things God has given me for the people that God has specifically called me to take care of. So, since I, for instance, am a husband, I have a wife, and I am called by God to use what I have to support her life and well-being, not just my own. And in fact, I support my own life and well-being so that I am better able to be a good and faithful and devoted husband to her. Likewise, I have children. As a father, it is one of my highest priorities to use the things that God has given me to see to the discipline, the life, the welfare of my children. And by the way, I am called to take care of them first. They are a higher priority for me than the random person I might meet out on the street, because God has specifically charged me to take care of these people, my children, my spouse, my workers, my employer, in a way He has not called me to specifically take care of everyone else. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not supposed to take care of everyone else. In fact, as you can see here, the third thing I am supposed to do with the things God has given me is to use them to support the life and well-being of anyone I encounter out there in the world. It's just to say that my balance of responsibility tilts more to the people God has more directly called me to serve. I am more responsible for my parents, my spouse, my children, my coworkers, my employer than I am for the random person out on the street. But as a good steward, as a good manager, I should try very hard to manage all of the resources I have so that I can not only take care of myself and take care of the needs of my family and my coworkers and so forth, but also so that I will have enough to also be able to help any person I encounter when they are in need. After all, this is what a steward is. The goal is not simply to continue to enrich myself, but mainly to use what God gives to take care of the people God gives me to take care of.